We'll get to the running backs in just a second. A lot of injuries there. But let's start off with that quarterback position. If you have a question for Jeff, continue to send your text messages in on the Dubell Lumber text board, 609-403-0973. All right, Jeff, let's get into the quarterbacks here. Got some Ryan Tannehill questions this week, and you wonder, why does anybody care about Ryan Tannehill? Well, they're playing the Browns, so does that mean that he should be in your lineup?
I think so, especially considering that we got some banged-up running backs again with Miami. So Arian Foster's out. They don't trust Ajayi yet. They don't trust Kenyon Drake yet. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. So I think Tannehill's going to carry that offense, and he can scramble, too. He's a top 10 quarterback this week.
Dak Prescott's been impressive as a rookie. He's got the Bears who are banged up. Should Prescott be starting for your fantasy team?
I think there are better options. I mean, if you've got him, I understand why you might want to use him because the Bears are really banged up, but they're probably going to run Zeke Elliott up through the middle a lot this week.
Talking with Jeff Pasquino, looking at the quarterbacks. Week number 3, Matt Ryan, he might be the highest scoring quarterback in a lot of league formats. Got the Saints this week. You playing Matt Ryan?
I'm playing every way I can in that game. I think that game could be 50-49 kind of game. It's going to be ridiculous. But another team with any defense, start everybody you can.
We thought that about the Saints last week against the Giants. That didn't happen, so maybe this is the week that Saints defense has a letdown here. How about Matt Stafford, another guy who has been pretty good, even though he doesn't have Calvin Johnson? Are you playing Matthew Stafford this week?
I think he's a borderline start. I think Green Bay is going to have – this is sort of like their homecoming game. It's their first home opener. Aaron Rodgers needs a get-right game. Detroit's been Jekyll and Hyde like they usually are. They played up the Colts. They played down the Titans. I don't trust them too much this week, but I think they'll have a decent performance.
Tarek, taking your fantasy football questions. Some questions continue to come into the Dubell Lumber text board. We'll get to them in a minute. 609-403-0973. Talking with Jeff Pasquino from thefootballguys.com. All right, we mentioned running back. So many injuries over there. What do you do with Minnesota?
Well, I think you got to wait and see. I think the shark move right now is to take Ronnie Hillman, who was picked up this week. I think he's better than Asiata or McKinnon. Right now, Asiata is the guy at the goal line, so if you're looking for touchdowns, he is your guy. McKinnon's between the 20s, but I think Ronnie Hillman could be the guy starting in a few weeks.
All right. What are you telling owners who have Jeremy Langford?
I'm sorry. Well, he's a Bear. They're going to give him the ball. I think their offensive line still hasn't gelled yet, but there aren't too many strong running backs right now, so he's a running back 2 almost by default.
There's some reports that there could be guys pushing him out there. That would be unfortunate. What about Isaiah Crowell? He's a guy 3rd in the league in rushing yards. You trusting him?
No. If you take away that long 85-yard run against the Ravens, who decided not to have a secondary on that play, he's got less than 3 yards per carry. Cleveland's a complete nightmare mess. I avoid anybody except maybe Josh Gordon as a hope and pray that a quarterback is going to be there come Week 5.
All right, Jeff Pasquino from the Football Guys answering your Week 3 fantasy football questions. Text them to the Dubell Lumber text board, 609-403-0973. We're looking at the running back situation because of all the injuries that are out there this season with the running backs. It seems like every single week there's somebody new. What about in Miami? What's the situation there?
Yeah, it's going to be a mix between Ajayi and Kenyon Drake, who's the rookie. But he's always been perceived as a Reggie Bush-type running back, a sort of a third down back. Again, I think Tannehill's going to throw most of the time, and he can scramble a lot. So I think if they don't have a run game, they can manage it.
What are you doing with D'Angelo Williams this week? He's been another guy who has had some big weeks, but the Eagles' defense has been pretty good. Is D'Angelo Williams a guy that you should be playing?
I think you do what the Steelers are doing and ride him into the ground because they've given him more than 30 touches the last 2 weeks. They'll probably do the same thing again this week. The Eagles have looked good, but the competition has not looked good that they've faced. So this is a bigger test. I still think that Ben Roethlisberger will get the ball in Williams' hands plenty of times. He's a top 5 running back this week.
Jeff wants to know, what should I do? Thomas Rawls, Christine Michael. He has them both. Which guy's a better play?
The news is not good on Thomas Rawls this week. He's been downgraded, and the coach is starting to speak like he's not going to play. So I would lean towards Michael.
Okay. What about the Kansas City running back situation? A lot of questions about Spencer Ware and Jamal Charles this week.
I think the Kansas City Jets game is actually going to be more passing than running, which plays into Ware's hands. He's the better receiver. He's the better goal line back. He's the running back I'd use this week.
All right, some fantasy football questions continue to come in. We'll get to that segment in just a second. Let's shift over to the wide receivers for Jeff Pasquino from thefootballguys.com. And, all right, how about some under-the-radar guys? Tajay Sharp against the Raiders this week. Titans, a lot of targets down there.
Love Tajay Sharp this week, and especially I just heard that Delanie Walker's a little questionable now. Sharp had a bad week last week because he was blanketed by Slay in Detroit, but Oakland has been giving up over 400 yards passing. Sharp will see a lot of targets and a lot of work this week. Great pickup.
As we're having this conversation, Adrian Peterson has been placed on the IR, so go ahead and try to figure out what Viking back you want. All right, what about let's go to Indianapolis. Phil Dorsett. A lot of questions about him with Moncrief out. Is he the guy whose production should go up?
We're trying to figure out who's going to cover whom. San Diego's got some good cornerbacks that have been good on the outside. I think the sharp plays to play the tight ends for the Colts because you've had both tight ends, Allen and the second guy that no one knows his name, that's been catching a lot of balls for the Colts. So I think that all the receivers are in play for the Colts this week, and I think Andrew Luck is going to have a great play.
A lot of interesting tight ends. I needed one last week because Zach Ertz was hurt. Went out and got Kyle Rudolph, Jordan Cameron caught a touchdown, Jesse James. There's some interesting tight ends out there for you. And what about Coby Fleener against the Falcons this week? You like what he's done now he's with the Saints?
I do because the Falcons, again, they have a bad secondary. They've given up touchdowns twice already to tight ends, so I think that he goes up really well. Jack Doyle is the other tight end I was trying to think of for the Colts. I like Burton for the Eagles. He looked really well. They schemed him into the mix. He's a really solid receiver. So there's some guys you can go out and pick up at tight end.
All right, let's get our listeners' questions that have been coming in for Jeff. You can send us a question on the Dubell Lumber text board, 609-403-0973. Fantasy question, tight end, Gary Barnidge or Dennis Pitta?
Oh, Pitta. I'm all about the Pitta this week. Pitta is the guy that everybody's talking about this week. I've been driving the Pitta train for weeks now. Everybody's finally on board. He's my number one tight end this week.
Number one overall. All right, Kenny Stills or Mike Wallace at wide receiver?
I would go with Mike Wallace. I like the Baltimore-Jacksonville game. There'll be a lot of passing. I think that those teams, neither team has the Ravens haven't faced a very good passing game yet. So I think both those teams are going to throw a lot. I think that Flacco to Wallace and Flacco to Pitt are going to be big combinations this week.
Jeff, what are you telling people to do with Gronk?
Well, we saw what happened last night. They used him more as a decoy. He got his feet wet. He's going to get 10 days off now, and he's going to get his quarterback back in 2 weeks. So you hold on to him. Probably don't use him until week 5 when Brady's back.
This one from Jeff. He wants to know, Blake Bortles, should I try to trade him, sell high? Or, well, I guess you're not selling high. You're just trying to get someone to buy him while he's low. What are Bortles owners doing?
Wait until he has a good week this week, then you can look to trade him. I think he's a solid quarterback, but if you've got 2 top 15 guys, you can move them. Quarterbacks are one of the hardest things to trade, though, so be careful.
All right. What's the running back situation in Washington? Steve wants to know what to do with Matt Jones.
You got to go with him for now. He's the top back, but I don't really trust much of anything there. Again, I'd start to look for the under-the-radar guys who could be emerging, like a Charles Sims in Tampa Bay.
All right, Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. A couple more for you here. A listener wants to know, Stephon Diggs, is he a WR1 now?
He is. There was some news today that he's nursing a groin injury, but he's not in the injury report, so don't let that scare you off. He's solid. He was a wide receiver 1 at Maryland. He can lead an offense. He is that guy for the Vikings, and they have to throw the ball now.
Aaron Foster ruled out. Some news for you there. Also, Delanie Walker didn't practice today. As we told you, Rashad Jennings is questionable for the Giants, and we just gave you the news Adrian Peterson put on injured reserve. So some fantasy news for you out there. Jeff Pasquino, footballguys.com. As we do every week at this time, get your fantasy questions to us. We'll get them to Jeff and help you set your weekly fantasy football lineups. Jeff, give us a couple of sleepers, under-the-radar guys that you're looking at this week.
I think Clyde Walford's a good tight end for Oakland that's kind of out there. That's a sleeper. I like, wide receivers. I think I'm using Marvin Jones a lot for Detroit against Green Bay. I think the Green Bay's going to win that game. It's probably going to be 37-24, so there's goodness on both sides. Running back, both backs for Atlanta are in play. Got Coleman and Freeman. Sleepers, it's getting a little thin on the bottom there, but I think Thomas Rawls is probably my favorite. I'm sorry, not Rawls, Michael, because Rawls is out. He's probably my favorite sleeper this week. And again, pick up Hellman if you can.
I probably should have gone with LeGarrette Blount over Rawls this week, huh, PT?
Yeah, I would say that might have been a nice move to make. But, hey, hindsight is always 20/20.
All right. There's your Week 3 fantasy start sits sleepers with the Jeff Pasquino from thefootballguys.com setting your Week 3 lineups. Thank you, Jeff. Good luck to you.
Thank you, guys. Good luck and enjoy the game.